Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Money Manifestation Mastery, 3 stages of Money Manifestation Mastery Masterclass. Such a pleasure to share this stuff with you. Hello, I'm Rosemary Nonny Knight. We'll talk a bit more about me as we go on. We're going to start actually today, unusually, with an affirmation. It is the I am worthy affirmation. Okay, we're going to start there. Are we going to start there? Yes, we are. We are. It's a bit unusual. I don't normally start with an affirmation, but I thought, you know what, today feels like just fully be own what we do here in the Deliberate Millionaire world. Ultimately, so again, welcome. I'm Rosemary Nonny Knight. Um, we are going to be talking about the 3 stages of money manifestation mastery. You're going to learn a lot. Be here, be very present. Make sure you have a book or something with you, some kind of journal, some kind of notebook to make notes of what we're going through. But to start with, as I say, we're going to start with the affirmation. I am worthy. Let me share all this so that you can have a look at that as well. Okay, so we'll start there. And then we will get into the details. So, this is just really to connect us with the divine. Because as you're here, what I really want for you is to hear what the divine is saying to you. Yes, you're going to learn a lot from what I say as well. But it isn't, that's why if you're going to be here, be here. If you're listening to recording, whether you're listening to me live right now, be very present here. If you're listening to me live, there is a chat box there, so you can say hello in there, and I will pop in after we've done this affirmation bit. There's a chat box, say hello, tell me where you're streaming I'm from. I want to know. Okay, and then we'll get started. But I really want us to be receptive, and music has a way of opening us up. So we're going to start by singing this. You probably don't know it to begin with, but you will, hopefully, by the end. Okay. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy of the best. Yes, I am. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy of the best. Yes, I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am so loved. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am so loved. I am connected to the divine, and I am worthy. I am one with the divine, and I am worthy. I am surrounded by love, and I am worthy. I now allow love to flow freely through every part of me, for I am worthy of every good thing. Right now, I choose to believe in myself and my inherent worth. Right now, I choose to allow you, divine, to minister life to me. I am now aware of a deep sense of worth in my very core. I allow myself to be even more me because who I am is worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy of the best. Yes, I am. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy of the best. Yes, I am. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am so loved. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am so loved. Okay. You ready now? Let's begin properly. Welcome again. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the 3 stages of money manifestation mastery. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we're here for. Share the screen again. Here we go. Okay, so why is it that despite all your efforts, all your knowledge, all your spiritual wisdom about creating the life that you want, you still feel financially restricted, unfulfilled, and stuck in a life that feels wrong? Number one key: manifestation, the ability to create the life you want, the ability to create life, okay? Because a lot of people are creating life that they don't want. It's a skill. Unfortunately, most people do not train. There's a thing about ambitious spiritual people. There's a tendency to think that just because you know that manifestation is a thing, just because you know that you are one with the divine and you are powerful and you create your own reality, that that should be enough to make it work. It's not. It is not, as you probably have discovered. And we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation here, because the process of manifestation itself is simple. I've written about it in the prosperity book. I've written about it in a few of my books. It is quite simple. Two books specifically, the manifestation book and deliberate magic, or the prosperity book. Okay, some of you all might have that already. And I go through it very clearly, but I'm going to summarize it here very quickly before we get into the reasons why it doesn't work for most people. Hopefully you can see this clearly. If not, well, I'll explain it to you, and I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version of how manifestation works. How do you create your life? And remember this: life isn't happening to you. You are happening to life, as in you are creating your life. Okay. And I'm going to start from the very center here. This is the power source. This is where all the power is. Okay. In the superconscious, the kingdom, you can call it the throne room. I like to call it the God zone. That's where all the power is. And as we go through this, you'll understand better what I'm saying here. And if you have read the book, you'll understand what I'm saying anyway. In order for us to be able to create predictably the life that we want, we do need to be connected to a power source. It's like a car battery or car. If the charge on an electric car runs out, it's going to stop running. Okay. The unfortunate thing with human beings is that if you run out of charge, you keep going around life looking as if you're looking as if you're alive, but actually you're running on very low energy. And thankfully, the thing that sustains all of us is the superconscious, the divine, the God zone, the kingdom, the throne room, whatever you want to call it. It's available to all. Now, whether you have an abundance of power, that is the question here. You get to choose whether you have just enough to survive or whether you have enough to thrive. Okay? You hold the authority here because you are the authority in your life. So that's where the power comes from that creates everything. Everything is love energy materialized. Everything is love energy materialized. Your body is love energy materialized. This phone is love energy materialized. This computer, love energy materialized. The windows, love energy materialized. Love energy materialized. It is the same as steam to an ice cube. Same ingredient, different presentation. We have the power or have the ability to convert energy to matter. We have the ability to do that, to manipulate energy, turn it into matter. When you get skilled at this, you'll be able to turn it into matter that you really, actually, truly want. But the power, the energy, comes from this here, comes from here. Okay? Here, the subconscious mind. We all generally have an awareness of what the subconscious mind is. And, we have general ideas. But for the purposes of manifestation, for manifesting money and resources to living your purpose, we talk about money here. The subconscious mind is where you plant the seed. So I see it like a garden. Imagine a garden within you, where you plant seeds. The seeds being the goals that you have, the seeds being, your goals, your vision, whatever you want to create. That's a seed. You plant it by writing it down, speaking it, feeling it, seeing it, speaking as though it is done. That immediately plants that seed within you. Okay? That plants the seed within you. And the subconscious mind operates like a garden. You plant any seed in there. And as long as the energy from the superconscious is allowed to flow freely through it, it will create whatever you've planted in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind does not judge what you want or what you've planted in there. You are the authority in your life. Okay? You are the authority in your life. So as long as it is connected to the power source, Whatever you plant in that subconscious mind is going to materialize in the physical reality. The conscious mind helps decide what you plant, because all the writing, speaking, seeing, and feeling you do consciously. It plants the seed in the subconscious mind. The power from the superconscious flows through and results, if you allow it to, in the physical equivalent of that energetic seed is materialized in the physical reality. It's a simple enough process. Focus on something, stay connected to source, connect, focus, allow. Allow it to manifest in the physical reality. Connect to source, so you're connected to the power. Focus, decide what you want with the conscious and plant it in the subconscious, and then allow it to be manifested in the physical reality. The process is simple. Connect, focus, allow. Okay, connect, focus, allow. Simple-ish keys. Okay, so that's just the foundation of what we're going to do of manifesting the desires of your heart. Now let's get into who this masterclass is for, and I will talk some more. I will carry on speaking about this, but let's talk about who is this for. It is for people who know that they're worthy, people who are destined for greatness. Now, I say that it's for people who know that they're worthy. You may know that you're destined for something more. You may know that you may not. You may think it's too proud to state that you are destined for greatness. However, you may not feel worthy of things, but we'll talk about that some more. But there's a deep sense of, I'm meant for something more. That's why you're here. Okay. You do feel a bit stuck. You wonder what's getting in the way of that something more, because you've created a good enough life, just not quite the life you want. Okay. And you're wondering when it's going to be your turn. You're trying to be thankful, but it can be a struggle at times. You're ready now for change. And you're open to doing very simple things consistently. Good. What is this? As I've already explained, I've explained the basics and the process of manifestation. But it isn't about instant manifestation tricks, because you've already tried all of those. It's not about pretending to be positive all the time. Nobody is. It's not about waiting for the divine, the universe, your higher power, or divine, infinite intelligence, whatever name we want to give it, to come rescue you. God, Buddha, Jesus, everything. It's not about waiting for any of that to come, or any of those to come rescue you. Okay? It's about learning how to manifest and keep the money, the resources you need to live luxuriously in your purpose. It is your divine right if you will learn how to do it. It is your divine right to live a free, fulfilled, financially abundant, love-drenched life. I'll talk about that in a moment. It is your divine right if you will learn how to do it. And it is this masterclass will help you. The stuff I teach you here will start you in the process of stabilizing your life at a higher level than you are right now. Okay, as I said, your true design life, your purpose aligned life is going to be free, fulfilled, financially abundant, love drenched. For each person, that looks somewhat different, but freedom for everyone means to do what you want, with who you want, when you want, unapologetically. That is your right. To wake up every single morning knowing that you're living luxuriously in your purpose, you're doing the things that you're actually meant to do, not just longing for this greatness that always seems a little bit out of reach, that you're actually living that life. That is meant to be your right. That is your right if you will claim it. That your money is working, that you feel fulfilled. So it's not just about the work that you do, that your life feels good. You feel on track. You are financially abundant. You have more than enough money for right now, and you have money to leave for generations to follow, a legacy of wealth behind you. You have the ability to do that. And most of you long for generational wealth. It is your right. It is your right. Okay. And that you are love drenched, that you are connected deeply to the power source, the divine, and you love you. And you love you. You feel loved and you feel guided, and you love you deeply and accept you deeply. It is your divine right. Now, you can have complete control over that last bit, but but it's not always easy to do. Although, depending on what level of awareness you're at, you might be one that says, I'll definitely love myself. And for some of you, that might be true. It seems unlikely if you're here. Okay. But you will think that you do, which unfortunately, if you're not aware that there's an issue, you don't realize you need to handle it, which is unfortunate. Okay. But you're here. So I would suggest to you that you take a look and see if you're the one that says, "Oh, I definitely love myself." Are you sure? Anyway, let's keep talking. I'm Rosemary Nonny, by the way. You're new to the community. I'm a weird blend of African and British. I was born in the UK, went to Nigeria, came back to the UK. I used to be quite passive, just going along with whatever my parents told me to do, told me to become a pharmacist. I became a pharmacist. Just kind of at church, I was supposed to be the leader. I was supposed to be doing this, doing blah, 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 all of that stuff. I just kind of went along with it. And yeah, I was successful enough, just not, I knew it wasn't the life for me. I felt unfulfilled completely. But I thought it was just like most people, you just think that's what we do. It's the adult life. You have to be responsible, blah, 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 blah. And I worked hard, became the pharmacist. It wasn't until, trying to help people, help, and saying yes, 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 and getting myself into a financially bad place. Basically, it's like I was earning more money than I've ever earned in my life, and somehow getting into debt a heck of a lot faster than I ever could have before. Ultimately, it was like the money's coming in, and I'm just getting rid of it, getting rid of it, getting rid of it. I didn't see that at the time, but that's what I was doing. And so in the end, I did go bankrupt when I was 7 months pregnant with my first child, having cried through the pregnancy, wondering what kind of world I'm bringing my baby into, and realizing I didn't want to. Because before getting pregnant, I thought that 6 weeks I would put the child in childcare, and I would go back to work, and blah blah blah. And then I got pregnant and realized no. No, 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 no. I want to home educate my child. I don't want anybody to have more access to my child than I do. So, so, so yes, I was very upset all through the pregnancy because I knew I carried a heck of a lot of debt and it was getting worse. And I couldn't see how I was going to have time to spend with this baby. And I was bringing this baby into the world and I had no plan and I just felt horrible. And then 7 months in, I went bankrupt because I just couldn't see any other way. And then I woke up the next morning, this was just before Christmas of that year, and I woke up the next morning having gone bankrupt and felt completely numb inside. Because I look back and I realize at that point, for me, it was the only way for me to handle the feeling of being such a failure. Okay, it was the only way for me to handle it was to not handle it, to just shut down my emotions and not feel for a while. So for about 4 years, that was the state I was in. I called it the blank because I literally felt blank. And I'm quite excitable normally, but I literally felt blank. Okay. Yes, am I where I am? Just checking in here, just making sure everybody can hear and everything. Remember, the chat box is there. So if there's any questions you have or anything or any insight coming through for you, feel free to ask any questions or whatever, use the chat box there. But anyway, carrying on. I felt blank. But anyway, I had in that 4-year period of the blank, I did give birth to my other two children. My other two children, so I had 3 children in total, and I carried on working as a pharmacist, and it was just anyway. It was a very blanky time, and also just a time of selling off all my personal development stuff and books and spiritual growth books and all of this. And please understand here that I have been spiritual. I have known the divine since I can't remember a time I didn't know the divine. Okay. I have been developing a relationship with the divine since, again, I can't remember a time I didn't develop a relationship with the divine, literally reading the Bible when I was 5 years old, 6 years old or something, and really always longing. And there was all a lot in my childhood that meant that the divine was my safe place-ish, as safe as any place could be for me, because I didn't know really what safe meant or felt like. So as safe as it could be for me. And I say that because just because I knew the divine and had been spiritual forever did not mean that life was completely hunky-dory, and also did not mean that the divine came and rescued me from choices I was making. The divine loved me, just like the divine loves us all, unconditionally. Whatever I did, I was acceptable. I was loved, I was acceptable, but until I woke up and decided to change the way I was doing things, the divine was not going to force me to live in my purpose. If I wanted to go along with all my parents wanted me to do, to become the pharmacist, blah, 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 the divine was going to support me in doing that. If I wanted to stay feeling numb forever, the divine would support me in doing that. Ultimately, you are the authority in your life. I was the authority in my life. I had to finally get to the point of, this isn't meant to be my life. There is more for me than this. And so I started to wake up. I started to wake up. This was 4 years after going blank. So 4 years of the blank of depression, because it was depression, and then gave birth to my last baby. And about 6 weeks later, I was having a phone call with a family member, and they were yelling down the phone at me because I was supposed to be sending money for something that I didn't have any money to send for, basically. And I suddenly realized this is not meant to be my life. No, sitting here, somebody yelling at the phone at me. I hadn't been able to tell anybody that I'd gone bankrupt because I felt so ashamed, and so they didn't really understand what I was going through. They just thought I was being difficult for the sake of being difficult, and I just felt like this isn't supposed to be my life. Enough. And I realized in that moment that I needed to wake up. And so I started to wake up. I first went into property because I knew at this point I want to home educate my children. I mean, I'd known all the way through pregnancy, but I wasn't sure how I was going to make it happen. But then I made a decision because who else was going to make the decision except me? So, so I decided I want to home educate my children. I want to somehow watch them grow up, and I want to spend more time with them than anybody else. And I also want to show my children that there's a different way to live. You do not just have to settle into adulthood and pretend that your desires have suddenly evaporated, and that now you're just a stable adult that will just go along with anything. No. Especially since my daughters were daughters as well, I really didn't want them to ever feel like they had to choose a career or a family. They couldn't have both. They can. And I wanted to, I knew there was more. Like I said, you're here because you know there's more for you. I knew there was more for me. And so I realized if it was to be, it was up to me. I went into property anyway, because again, it seemed like a practical next step. I was too scared to do the things I really wanted to do, which is what I'm doing now. But at that point, I was scared of it. At that point, it was just like, you know what? I don't think that can make. And in fact, I didn't even think about it. I did think about being a coach and such, but I thought, you know what? I wait until I'm 52 or 72 with more life experience. Then I'll do the things that I'm actually called to do. But now I just need to do something practical. So property, real estate seemed to be the thing. So I did get into that. They were selling it to me at no money down. There's a no money down strategy. So let's see, you can make lots of money by putting no money down. And I'm thinking, well, I have no money to put down. So so let's figure this thing out. In order to learn the strategy of no money down, I had to pay money to learn that strategy. And at this point in my post-children phase or post-children era, I realized that I had spent a good chunk of money to become a pharmacist. And I hadn't questioned it at all. I'd spent a good chunk of money, a good chunk of energy, a good chunk of time. And I hadn't questioned it at all. And it was a career I didn't even really want, but it was the adult way, right? And yet every time I'd try and start a business when I was pre-children, I would dabble at it and try and learn everything for free and then try this and try that and try the other. And then when it got difficult, I just, well, I'm a pharmacist, so I don't need to do this, do I? And I quit. But this time I realized, no, the same way I gave energy and time and money to building a life I did not want, I need to do the same for the life I actually want. And even though I'm starting with no money, so I'm going to figure it out. And so I did. Or I started anyway, and I had to borrow and blah, blah, blah to kind of get things going because I didn't have money. Anyway, I went through this whole process within 18 months. Long story short, ultimately, I did learn some strategy over the first year. I paid some guy at 10K to teach me how to do the no money down strategy, which there was a no money down strategy, but I had to pay to learn it and all that. But I did learn it. And within 18 months, ultimately, I was making multi-six figures in real estate, following a particular strategy, because whatever this guy told me to do, I did, because I knew that money that I paid him had to come back. It had to come back. I felt like I'd taken money from my children's mouths and I needed to make sure that money came back. So whatever the guy had said to do, I did. And it was one of the scariest years of my life, I must admit, because you're trained to be an employee. And most of us went through school and all of that, and we're trained to be employees. To become a business owner, it's a whole different kettle of fish, that's for sure, as well as the fact that you're carrying it all yourself. Oh my God. So it was a very scary time. And I was coming from bankruptcy and depression. Oh yes, it was a very interesting period of time. However, within 18 months, ultimately, by just sticking at it and continually going, I did get myself to a place where I was more than making more than I was as a pharmacist. And so I was able to leave pharmacy and move into doing this. And I started it because I could do it around my girls. And I used to take them around with me and everything. Anyway, so that was that side of the story. But then another coach that I was working with asked, what do you really want to do? Because this doesn't seem to be passion-based at all. And I was like, well, I would like to be a coach like you. And he's like, why don't you start then? And I'm like, I have to wait until I have more life experience or something, right? And he's just like, no, just get going. I'll teach you what you need to do. Let's go. So I started, but I started as a business coach because again, I felt like, who wants to hear about spiritual stuff? Who cares? Even though for me, everything that I'd done always came out of that connection to the divine. Always, 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 always. It was the divine guiding me, leading me, following practical strategies where he would lead me to who I needed to work with, blah, 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 all of that stuff. But I didn't want to talk about that because I felt like, who wants to hear about that stuff? And until a coach said, then you're lying to people if you don't tell them the truth of everything that you do, not just the tips, tricks, and strategies. So anyway, little by little, I got more courageous and kept saying yes to me, until here we are. Okay, so that's very long, unnecessarily long, probably part of me. But I share that because everything we're going to talk about in terms of the 3 stages, I went through all of that. I've taken clients through that. You will need to go through that. You've gone through some of it already, but you're stuck. I want to show you where you're stuck so that you can move forward. When I come to tell you about abundance, which is the Deliberate Millionaire Gathering, the foundation level, the reason why you need it is to get you from being stuck to the next level, where you're not stuck, where you're stage 3, creating what you want. But let's talk through this. Yes, you might be frustrated about what you're able to create in your life because some of y'all are making money, but not in the life that you would actually like to be making money. And so you feel restricted still, even though you're making, to some people, it might even be that you're making more than most. For some of y'all, you're not making as much as you would like at all. Whichever way, you're not in the life that you want. Okay, you've read the books, you know the principles, you maybe even been going to church your whole life, and you know that if you pray, you can move a mountain, blah, blah, blah. If you affirm things, if you visualize, blah, blah, you know the rules. You know that you create your own reality. You know that you and the divine, you may not say it as, it depends on how religious you are. You might not say, I create my reality. You might say that it's me and the divine that, if I pray about something can come to pass, blah, blah. Whatever, however you say it, there's a part of you that knows that you can manipulate how your life shows up by what you do, either a prayer or affirming or something. You know that it's not all set in stone, but you can't seem to make it work for you. And it isn't because it doesn't work. It's because you haven't learned how to make it work for you. You might have learned the principles, but you don't know how to really own those principles. Okay? So what stage are you in? Everybody goes through this process. And I explained this simple view of reality already to you. You can, if you weren't here at the beginning, you're going to have to listen to the replay when I send it. But we start talking about stage 1 here. Now, people in stage 1, they live mostly focused on the physical reality, which is what you see right now. We're aware of being in the physical reality. Okay. And it feels like if you only live in the physical reality at stage 1, which all of us started at because we didn't know any better, it feels like life is happening to you. Okay, that you're a victim of forces beyond your control. You kind of have to play the game in order to get the results, basically. So you learn to play the game. That's what school teaches us. That's what our parents teach us. That's whatever. It's to play a certain game, and then hopefully life will then, hopefully maybe if we go to school and we are obedient and we are good people and we, say our prayers or something, then hopefully things will be good. But sometimes that doesn't work for most, actually, really, except some people learn to live with it. But if life is good, then at this stage, you feel blessed. Oh, the divine has blessed me. Or lucky, if you're not spiritual, then you're lucky. The fate has smiled on you or something. And these are the people that think that are very, very blissfully unaware. Okay, and they don't want to upset the balance of anything. So in some ways, when life is okay, they're not really looking to see you anything because you know what, life is okay, not going to touch anything. Okay. However, for people whose life is not okay, they feel cursed or punished by the divine or whoever they consider their deity to be, or just plain old unlucky. They're not spiritual, they call it unlucky. I'm just unlucky. Everything I touch turns to ash, basically. And there's always someone or something else to blame for their financial issues, whether it's the government and the politicians and whatever it is that they're doing, or it's the economy, or there's no jobs, or it's the foreigners coming in and taking all the jobs, or it's the white man they're putting down the black man, or it's the black man coming in and taking jobs from the white man, or it's the parents, their partner, their children. Somebody is getting in the way of them getting what is theirs. ultimately. And this is at stage one. And you always feel like you just need to juggle enough in the physical reality. If you can just shift enough, it's like playing chess. If I could just shift the right pieces, then maybe things will work better. Except for some people, it feels like no matter how many pieces they shift, it doesn't work better. Life still feels horrible. Okay. And so it's some people turn to groups that so if there's groups of people that all think this particular politician is horrible, so they all gather in groups talking about this politician and how horrible this person is and what they're doing and how they're just taking the country to the dogs and this and that and the other. Or it's the white people, so let's all gang against the white people. Or it's the black people, let's all gang against the black people. Or it's the foreigners, yeah, let's send them all back to their countries. And so they gather around, okay, and they get frustrated. They send letters to politicians. Some people get horrible about it, or they march about it, or camp about it, or who knows what about it. So all of this stuff, all trying to manipulate the physical reality. They're unaware of their own power, okay, because just because you're ignorant of your power doesn't actually mean it doesn't exist. So they spend all this time focused on all the stuff they do not want, and they keep creating everything that they do not want. But it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they focus on it, they get it. I mean, they were born into it because their parents were focusing on it. They started focusing on it because their parents showed them exactly how to focus on it, basically. And then they create their behaviors, and everything is focused on it. So they create it, and then they say, well, you're telling me that I'm creating my own reality. Why would I create something that hurts me? Why would I do this? But all the while, they still focus on it, and they keep doing the same things that create the same problems, but they don't see it, and they think it's happening to them. But it's not. Unfortunately, it just keeps getting worse. Others people turn to religion or to a chosen deity. Nothing, and please don't hear this to mean that religion is a bad thing. It isn't. It isn't. It's just sometimes there's a lot of truth mixed in with a lot of crazy. Basically, that's the thing. And you kind of need to be able to separate the truth from the crazy. But anyway, they worship their deity, whatever their deity is, and they beg, plead for assistance. Nothing wrong with that. And they sometimes get it. And so then they're blessed. Oh, I must be really good. And, I must be righteous and I'm being rewarded for my goodness and blah, blah, blah. Other people don't get the answer that they want. And then they think, oh, it must be that they're angry with me, or the divine is angry with me, or God is angry with me, and God is punishing me, and I deserve it, and I don't really know what's happening, but it must be because I deserve it, because God is above all things, and his ways are not my ways. I don't understand it, blah, blah, blah. They don't want me, maybe the divine doesn't want me to do this thing, so that's why the doors are being closed, blah, blah. Ultimately, it's nothing to do with them. It's the divine, the God, their deity is the thing that is stopping them from achieving. So it's not their fault. It's just maybe not divine timing, or it's not. It's the divine. Divine knows best, right? Okay. So and they also have this weird relationship. Some of them, not everyone, but some have a weird relationship with the divine. So they're not sure if they will be met with love. Because I was this person. Okay, I was brought up Catholic, and then I became plain Christian, and I just wasn't sure. As much as I'd known the divine, as I said, since forever, and I'd heard of unconditional love. In fact, I'd been taught about unconditional love, but it hadn't really taken hold, because there was a part of me that still felt I had to earn this unconditional love. So actually, I believed in conditional love. And so, but then I was also not sure whether I could pray, and maybe this time the divine will love me enough to give me what I want, but maybe he just doesn't care. So apathy, or maybe I'm praying for something I should really not be praying about, basically. So I was never quite sure what response I was going to get. And there was some fear, in fact, a heck of a lot of fear that I wouldn't really talk about. I wouldn't say that I was afraid, but I was. Because how can you feel completely at ease with a deity that you're not sure what you're going to get? It's like being with a parent whose mood could be, you're never sure what mood you're going to get from that parent. Are they going to be angry with me because I asked this question, or what am I going to get? So you don't completely feel at ease, but you're supposed to, because you can't even talk about the fact that you don't completely feel at ease, because that could be met with anger as well. So so it's like you just make sure you follow the rules, and hopefully if you are good enough and you play small enough, and because that was something else I was taught to do, that I need to reduce so that the divine can increase, basically. And it sounded so good, but now I think about some of the stuff that I used to say, and it's like, really, did I really think the divine was so what's the word, he had a problem with his own identity, that he needed me to be small so that he could be big? Really? Really? His identity depended on whether I was being proud or not, basically. And when I think about some of that stuff, it's like, okay. But anyway, that's what I felt. And for some people, and maybe you're still there actually, because you might still be a little bit there. Most of y'all listening to me are not going to be at this stage, but in this case, this area, you might still be a little bit here. Okay. And ultimately, you're trying to curry favor with the divine. Not That's not what you would say, but you are trying to curry favor with the divine, and you're worried, and you're trying to make sure the divine is happy with you, or the person that represents the divine is happy with you. Hopefully then they will open the door for you, give you a platform to do the things that you want to do, or you'll be blessed or something. Okay. Ultimately, there's the feeling that your finances, your life is created by forces outside of your control. That it's forces in the physical reality, and you just need to make those forces happy, whether it's the politicians or the white people or the black people or the whoever people. If you just make them happy or get them out of the country or whatever, then you might get what you want. And a lot of people do live here, manipulating the physical reality, hoping that if they manipulate enough pieces, they will finally get the life that they want. As I said, most of y'all listening to me are not going to be at this stage, but it's where we all start. It's where we all start. And I'm saying it kind of bluntly, but I would never have known that I was at this stage. And even though the divine would have been trying to tell me, I would not have been able to hear it. Okay, so again, the chances are either you're not able to hear what I'm saying if you're at this stage, or you are definitely not at this stage if you're listening to me and you came through this process to be here. Okay. And most people in fact decide that, well, that's just life, it's just the way life is. Well, who knows why we're even here? We just need to suffer through it and die. And that's it, basically. Or maybe in the next life, things will be better. I'm just here to learn lessons, and then in the next life will be good, or something along those lines. Is that feeling of just give up and settle for whatever shows up. Except for most of us here, you guys listening to me right now, you know that you're an internal being, and there's a need to continually grow because you're one with the divine. You're creating the image and likeness of the divine. The divine is forever expanding and growing and forward thinking. So are you. Okay. So you can only do the whole passive stuff for so long. Some people can do it their whole life, but that's not you, or else you wouldn't be here. Okay. And so at this point, people start to wake up. Whether you start to realize that you're living beneath your potential and you want more, just like I did, or you go bankrupt, or you hit rock bottom, whatever that is for you, and you suddenly realize, well, I'm at the bottom anyway, I may as well try something different. You get ill, or you have some kind of near-death experience that makes you think, oh my gosh, I really am wasting my life and I need to do something more, or some kind of emotional disturbance, or somebody around you dies and you're thinking, oh, I really haven't done anything in my life, and look at them, they died and they're my age and blah, blah, blah. And so then you're waking up and you're thinking, I need more. This is when usually people start going up to stage 2. You don't have to wait for something painful, but usually, unfortunately, the human being has a tendency to wait for something painful to happen. And then we start to move up to begin with, actually, it's the blissfully awakened, but then it becomes fairly rapidly the painfully awakened. Okay, so stage 2. This is when you really do know. Because I know for me, I went from that phase where I was just kind of praying and begging and pleading with the heavens for everything to work. And I sometimes, as I said, I got some great results sometimes because, yeah, at that stage, that's what I believed. So you will always get what you believe. However, I finally came to this stage when it was actually when I started building my business that I started having to. Business is such a spiritual growth vehicle, for real. Okay, you want to grow spiritually and personally, start a business or have children. Those two things are the things that will challenge you into greater growth quickly. Okay, so, and I did both of them at the same time. So anyway, I started to look into what's happening. I started to look into things because I wanted to grow my business. I realized that working hard alone wasn't getting me there, and in order for me to keep working hard, I needed to change things about myself, or change the way I behaved, really, and change the way I thought. And so I started looking into things and reading things and really listening to my pastor person and realizing what they'd been trying to say to me for ages that I was at stage 1, I was not ready to hear. And I realized, as my clients start to do, that I create my own reality for reals, bro. So I was reading the books and I knew the laws and I knew I was meant for more. And I was watching my words and my thoughts because power of life and death is in the tongue and all of that stuff. And and doing, well, I've never been somebody for overly visualizing, but for some of y'all, visualizing is your thing. And And I got miracle money. It's like when you come into abundance, okay? One of the first things I do with people, one of the the first programs you will go through as a member of the Deliberate Millionaire Gathering is the 14-day prosperity reset. And you usually, during that 14-day prosperity reset, people get miracle money. I did that process myself, which is why I now teach it to my clients. And I did within like 4 days or something. I got this 1800 come through. I found money in the house. It was magical. It was, ooh, wow, this stuff works. I can affirm something and it works. Wow. Basically, I really do create my reality. Now, bearing in mind again that I've been spiritual forever. So even because I also had experiences when I was fully Christian as a child and everything, and praying for people not to get a divorce and then their parents would not get a divorce, praying for people to be healed and seeing them being healed. So I knew this stuff worked. I just I didn't know how to make it work like all the time, basically. So I knew this stuff. Although I knew it first from a very passive place that, oh man, well, it's all whether divine decides, whether God decides whether he's going to listen to my prayer or not. Whereas at this stage too, I realized actually God isn't holding anything back from me. It's really, it's by faith. Faith moves mountains. Do I have enough faith or not? And I can start to develop that faith thing, right? So I started to get to know this stuff. So I knew this stuff. It was quite exciting at the start. And I'd be at church, at the back of church, and looking at everybody singing all these songs about faith, but not living it. And I felt this self-righteous attitude coming on me. I felt quite superior, standing at the back, looking at everybody else and thinking, you guys are not living this. You're not living it. You're singing about it. You're praying about it, but you're not living it. And I am. I'm too awesome. And I was quite judgmental for a bit. I went through a judgmental phase. And for some of y'all, when you first discover this whole creating reality thing, you're not pleasant to be around because you're trying to correct everybody. You're trying to make sure that they speak the right words. And it is like becoming just turning religious, and you're fanatical and trying to convince everybody else that your way is the only way. And or when you're in an MLM business, a network marketing business, and you're so excited and you're trying to recruit all your friends and family, and they're all avoiding you. Because you're not pleasant to be around, because you're trying to police everyone into thinking the same way that you do instead of allowing them their journey. Okay. And the initial phase is you have your ambitions and you start to bring them to life. It's like I started to build my business 18 months. I was making multi-six figures. Yay. And I felt powerful. And then things stopped working. I was working harder and harder and harder. And still things, because I knew there were things I needed to reach, and actually I built multi-six figures in a business I didn't actually really want to be in. So just like I built my pharmacist career and done postgraduate studies, I was making more money in a career I didn't really want to be in. And I just kind of taken a sidestep to a business I didn't really want to be in because it felt practical, but it wasn't what I wanted. And so anyway, so I'm trying to build a thing I actually do want, and then things start to get hard. Things start to feel scary. Things start to get painful. And then I learned about, because before that, having come from Nigeria, we didn't pay that much attention to the inner world. You just didn't have room for that. When you're trying to eat, when you're trying to find money to eat, you're not thinking about whether I feel afraid or whether there's doubts or what's my childhood trauma or any of that stuff. Until I came to this country, it wasn't really a thing because all you needed to do was focus because you need to get out of the poverty, basically. But at this point, I was out of poverty. Just like some of y'all, you've reached a certain level. I'm not saying that you're all wealthy or something, but you're okay. Just not in the right life for you. Okay. And so then we get fanatical about doing the inner work. This is at stage 2. And you're trying very hard because you're a hard worker. You're doing all the hard work. You're doing all the practical work, and it still isn't changing. Because even like in building my property business, I went through a phase where I was working hard, and I just hit a ceiling and I couldn't get past it. The way I got past it was by doing a forgiveness day with my coach. Literally going around and forgiving not going around, but I mean, I had a day, 8 hours of going over everybody I was feeling resentful and angry about. And I could tell you within 3 months of that day, the income coming from my business doubled. Okay. And it didn't feel like I was doing anything different at all. Now, the chances are I probably was, because I had cleared the channel and my behaviors were now coming from a more wholesome place, but I didn't notice. All I knew was that I'd forgiven people and I felt clearer. I could make clearer, better decisions. I could hear the divine better. I was making, and I was doubling my income. Woo! So yes, you kind of hear about the inner work, and now you're going to retreats, and you're trying to figure out the inner stuff, and so we can go too far the other way as well, where it's all about the inner stuff. So suddenly, it's like now when I work with clients, some clients are talking about they want to be in business or they're in business and they're talking about I need to make more money. Now I can see, being an objective observer, that all you need to do is raise your prices, or you need to actually start a business, not just talk about being in business. Okay, but to them it's like, the reason why I'm not raising my prices is because of my childhood trauma, or it's because I feel unworthy, or I haven't started the business because I feel this, or it's because of this, and it's because of the other. Yeah, probably, but you also just need to do that. So, but you kind of get in stage two, you kind of get so overtaken by the inner stuff and the childhood traumas and the unworthiness and this and that and the other, and so you, something that should have taken just 18 months, 12 months, whatever, to get you to financial abundance becomes years of, well, I think I need to do this first, and I need to look at that first, and you're analyzing your childhood, you're pulling apart every single thought, you're doing all your shadow work, and this and that and the other. You're working with coaches, you're going to healing retreats, you're writing and speaking of affirmations, you're praying, which usually for most people is begging and pleading with the heavens, please help me because I don't know what's going on here. You're trying to stay high vibe all the time because you know that if you don't stay at high frequency, how are you going to be an energetic match for the things you want? And it's impossible. You can't do it anyway. So, and so then you start blaming yourself and judging yourself and hating on yourself and thinking that you're just never enough. You're never good enough. You never seem to be good enough. Okay. And so then you even start to feel more and more like a burden to your family, because probably to your family, you've been telling them how, because when you were in that first excited phase, you were sure that you're going to be a millionaire in 1 year, basically. And now suddenly 6 years later, and you're still not a millionaire, and your children are wondering, where is the money you said you were going to bring? And so now you start to feel, oh, your partner as well might be thinking, what, we spent all that money on you doing that training, and where is the money now? and you are starting to wonder that about yourself, and you're feeling more and more like a burden. And you're trying harder and harder and trying to get it right. You're trying this thing, you're trying that thing. There's so many new exciting ideas, and there's always new people coming into the marketplace telling you about, if you just did this thing, that would be the thing. And if you do that thing, that would be the thing. And so you're trying everything. And then you either decide that it's a scam, or you start to lose heart because you've been trying everything and it seems to be working for everybody else. It's not working for you. And oh my God. And then you start a new idea because that seems exciting. Some of y'all are here because it's like, oh, that sounds exciting. Let's see what she's talking about. And no. And on it goes. But every time you do that, you're battering your own self-confidence, okay? Because every time you do it and it doesn't work, or it doesn't work as quickly as you think it should, then you start something else, or you stop, feel horrible, start again, feel horrible, stop, feel horrible, and it's just it gets crazy. And in fact, at this point, some of y'all will find yourself thinking, man, it was so much easier when I didn't even know that I could create my own reality. At least if I was in stage one, I'd be ignorant of all of this. But now to know and to still not be able to make it work, it's worse. It feels horrible. Okay. And stage two people, which is most of y'all listening to me, you're very focused in the subconscious mind. So you're planting those seeds in that garden. And and the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is telling you what you want and all of that. And you're focused in the physical reality as well, because you're looking at the physical reality to see why it's not working. Why is it not working? Why is it not working? Why is it not working? What am I missing? What am I missing? You know you're powerful, but you can't make it work. And I've explained this whole thing to you. So you're stuck in these higher 3 levels, but you're missing the deeper level there. And as I said at the very beginning, that's the power source. That's the power source. But you're trying to get your power from everywhere else. That's the power source. It's just like when I was doing my property, when I started as a business coach, and my coach was saying, honey, you're not telling people the truth because you're not talking about this bit. That's what some of y'all are doing, because you don't want to sound like those wishy-washy spiritual people. You don't want to be like one of those wishy-washy spiritual people, but you're somehow being like them because you're not, and you're not paying attention to this part. Okay. So anyway, as I said, stage 2, very focused in that area, but the energy you're allowing yourself access to is limited. So therefore, it's going to be painful. even if you do manage to create something, it doesn't last, or it doesn't stick, or it's stuck there, and you know there's more, and you can't get to the more, and you keep going round and round and round in circles, trying to make it work, trying to make it work. You don't want to give up. You're not that person that gives up, so you're trying and trying and trying. It's not working. For some of y'all, you do give up and go back to stage one, and then at this point, people start quoting, "Oh, I backslid," especially because I see so many Christians that decided, "Oh, it's all new age. Everything I was learning in stage two is all new age now. So that's why I need to go back to stage one." They don't call it that, of course. They just say, "Oh no, I must have offended God, and so I was backslidden, and now I'm back. Oh, praise the Lord," or something. Honestly, because I was brought up Christian, I can see when these things are happening. That's not the only two options available to you. This is where the third stage comes in: the practical mystic. The practical mystic. The practical mystic. And being the practical mystic means surrender. And not surrender in it's the way I was brought up with religion, and the way he talked about surrender, it was scary, I must admit. But I was so scared anyway of the divine, of God, that I thought I had to do it that way. But I didn't really do it. But I would never have said out loud that I wasn't really surrendering in the way that they wanted me to, which is to just give up myself. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here, it's not a passive kind of surrender to whatever you want me to do, I'll do, blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff that nobody really actually does, but talks about doing anyway. Well, some people actually do it, and yeah. Okay. So when I talk about surrender here in the Deliberate Millionaire Gathering, it's a very active, I even like to say it's an aggressive trust. It's an aggressive trust, but in terms of surrender, it's about surrendering to yourself. Surrendering to yourself. And if you really fully understand what I'm saying here, it's not surrendering to anything outside of you. It's not surrendering to even to the divine. It's surrendering to you, surrendering to the desires of your heart, surrendering to the truth of who you are. Because most of the things that you're told, not again, I'm not saying religion is bad. When you put them in the wrong place, then they become unhelpful. But when I talk about surrender, it is about really